Okay, what is up guys, my name is Chris and welcome to today's video. We are jumping into some Delta Force. Now this is a free-to-play FPS game that is very heavily inspired by the likes of Battlefield and Call of Duty. Now you can see elements of both of those games in this. It's definitely more heavy on the Battlefield clone side, but there are a few things in here that I would say are taken from Call of Duty, and that is this thing right here, the Battle Pass. It's a free-to-play game, so it's hard for me to get too shitty about Battle Pass, but like when you look at the cost of some of this stuff, like this isn't too bad, but there's some of these skins that are going to cost you like $40, like real-world money dollars, which is just ludicrous, but it is a free-to-play game. For me, I think it's too hard to get too upset over a free-to-play game. I guess it is what it is. So we're going to jump into a game of attack and defend here. I've been playing this game for a little while, and I've only really been playing attack and defend. I think it's the premier game mode. It's the one that's kind of developed and designed around. So yeah, let's jump into a game, and I'll let you know my thoughts so far. This is a little post-video intermission bit in this video, I guess. I just wanted to talk about it before we jumped in because I briefly mentioned it in the video, but I don't go into detail about it. I want to talk about the gun customization because it's actually okay. So this is M16A4. I don't know my guns. I'm English. We don't really have guns. I just know them from video games. So if any of this is incorrect, I'm very sorry. But I want to talk about how you customize them and how you play with them. So I'm going to play with this one, for example, right now. And these are all the different customization slots, which I think is a lot. I mean, my experience with this is, like I said, it's Call of Duty and Battlefield and games like that. But I mean, you've got all these different scope options, and you actually unlock this kind of stuff pretty quickly. Like, I think I've unlocked all of this since I've started playing the game. And like I said, I've only really been playing it for a few hours. You've got mag mounts, so you can have, I mean, stuff. I mean, it affects the handling a little bit. How this works in real life, I don't know, but there you go. You can have bipods, things on your rails. So this, you can have a flashlight, for example, but I think you can have lasers. Yeah, lasers and bits and bobs like that. Actually, let me add it. Oh, we have to. Right rail again. I think it's just the same but inverted. You can have foregrips. So we'll install that. Handguards. I mean, the customization's pretty much, you know, endless kind of. You can have these. I do like these offset things. In fact, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this because I just think it's cool. I don't think I'm gonna use it functionally, but I just think it's cool. And then hell, we'll just throw a rear grip on. And they all have these real, like I say, real world isn't the right phrase, but they have these real stat effects that affect your control and handling, and you can feel it in game. And then you have this, right, this calibration thing, which I don't really know like how effective a lot of this stuff is, but I really like that you can tweak it and it affects the genuine stats of it, like pupil distance. I don't really know if I like that, but I also like that I have the option to play with it if I had the time to go through and play with it. Like, I can change my barrel length. I can't think of another game that has this in-depth weapon customization. You know, it's just cool, and I like that they have this flexibility and they don't cap you out at a number of attachments. And, you know, yeah, you can buy some stuff. You can go in and buy gun skins and stuff like that, but for the most part, a lot of this is free, and it's pretty cool that it's free. And I like that. They do that well. The operators look mostly realistic. I'm not going to say fully realistic, but they look mostly realistic, right? You can tweak emotes and stuff. I actually didn't know that. I just found that out now. But I'm guessing we're going to have more options for customization in the future. And a lot of that's probably going to go into their season pass thing. But, you know, I think the game does that well. And anyway, back to the video. So I know what you're thinking, and yes, this very much looks like a Battlefield clone, at least from this initial loading screen, right? So here we are, we're jumping into the helicopter. Gives you a good aerial view of this map. And what can I say? That the map design is is pretty good, actually. I haven't played a map that I fully hate yet, which is, you know, promising. And I haven't played a map yet that I'm trying to shoot the guy, but I guess this isn't a shooting seat. I haven't played a map yet that I really hate, and which I think is a strong trait, at least initially, right? Compared to like how Call of Duty has released. What the fuck? Okay, I died, and that's because apparently the game doesn't like when you jump out of helicopters. It isn't. I think it's officially still in beta, so again, it's too hard. It's too difficult to be too angry with how the game plays. Again, I think there's a lot of things the game, at least for an initial public launch, does extremely well. And some of that being map design. So, yeah, there's not really much more to say about this. The maps seem designed with all the different classes in mind. You can play as a sniper, a machine gunner, an SMG guy. You can play as basically whatever you want, and the game kind of lets you do that, which is nice. I will say there's definitely points in at least this game mode where you definitely want to like an SMG and be up in the action, or a sniper and be like away from the action and supporting it. But again, it's kind of up to you how you want to play it, right? So this guy here is sniping the other side of the map. Then you got a bunch of guys over the other side of the map who will mostly be SMG and assault class. Again, I think it falls foul of the same issue as maybe Battlefield does, where medics don't always do their role, or support classes don't always do their role. But ultimately, you know, people just play the game, and it's whatever, right? I think sound design is another pretty strong point. It's not the best in class. It's something that like Battlefield definitely does better. It's not bad by any means. You certainly know what's going on around you all the time. It's hard to pinpoint maybe where the sounds are coming from at times, and it's hard to really feel immersed sometimes when you've got random screaming and people shouting stuff. And again, I think that's maybe a flaw on the engine side and not having that fully optimized yet. It's not bad by any means. Okay, we've frozen again. As you can see, there are some pretty obvious, maybe, for lack of a better term, optimization issues. Like, for some reason, the game just grinds my whole computer to a halt as I'm playing it. So, you know, with the first time I launched the game, and this happens pretty much consistently. This may be a me issue, but again, for me, consistently, every time I load into the game, the rest of my computer grinds to a halt. Like, for me, loading OBS and playing the game is like a bit of an ordeal. And again, I don't know if that's on Delta Force or if that's on me, but I don't have that issue with any other games, so it's strange to me why I'd be having that issue. But yeah, back to my point. Sound design is good. You know, you can tell I'm hurt right now and everything's muffled. You know, you can hear people screaming and shouting at timings that work with stuff, obviously, which is a big bonus. And all the explosions and grenade sounds are good, and big explosions are good. And I can't say there's any real environmental effects that I've noticed where buildings have been destroyed and like they sound really good. It's not that they don't sound bad, it's just that I can't say I've noticed it, which, you know, is what it is, right? So the game runs on Unreal Engine 4, which I would say this, you know, is about right for an Unreal 4 game. There is supposedly a campaign coming, which is going to be on Unreal 5, but as advertised, the multiplayer is on 4, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. With all the optimization and engine issues that Unreal 5 seems to be having, I don't think that's a terrible thing, and it just plays well enough that I don't think it needs to be an Unreal Engine 5 game. I'd say the game definitely has an issue with like a lot of the way they, like, in terms of a gameplay thing, right? The spawns are a bit weird. I know it's kind of up to you where you spawn a little bit on this, but you know, you can have teammates in pretty legit gunfights and you can just spawn on them. That's something that Battlefield does well at stopping. I think as long as literally the person you're spawning in isn't shooting, I really don't think there's anything to stop you spawning on them. Not that I've noticed, at least. And there's been a lot of times, particularly in the late game, where it gets real nitty gritty and you're getting shot at a lot. It really turns into a game of spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die, which when you're on the defending team and you're on a spawn counter, that's can be pretty detrimental. But other than that, gameplay-wise, it plays really well. I think the classes are actually pretty well balanced for a launch game. They've done a lot of beta testing. Wow, that was a lot of enemy movement in there. They've done a lot of beta testing, so I think they've got a lot of the maybe gameplay balancing issues, other than like spawns and stuff, sorted out. It plays, like I said, it plays really well. There hasn't been a moment that I've gotten frustrated with gameplay loops like I have in, you know, Call of Duty or Battlefield. The game flows nicely. The way oh man, the way that you can turn a game like on its head pretty quickly. You can be having a really good defense sector, then all of a sudden they get a tank or something, and you're just obliterated. And it very much rewards like playing objective, which I think is nice, which is something that isn't always the case in these style of games, but it is what it is, right? One of the biggest things the game has with the balancing side, and I do think it generally is a real issue, is that the vehicles are pretty OP. Like I said just a minute ago, you can be having a game where you're having a really good defense, and then one tank rolls in and they can wipe out your whole like platoon, right, in speech bubbles, which isn't good and a bad thing. I think it's a good thing because it keeps you on your toes and forces people to play like bazooka classes or whatever. But it's a bad thing because it's completely unbalanced at that point. You have one tank against... Generally, I don't think I've ever played a game where it's been tank warfare. It's always been tank versus soldier, which I feel like in Battlefield, at least in my nostalgic experience, you tend to have like two tanks aside and you can battle it out. And if you end up with two tanks and the enemy opposition end up with no tanks, then that's on them, right? You've done poorly with your tanks. Oh my god. Oh no. So that's where the game struggles in not having that same element that like Battlefield did, where you could have genuine all-out Battlefield warfare, and just because the enemy had a tank or two, they didn't just dominate, right? The perks and the score streaks aren't really a thing, but it has these like weird little power-ups that do stuff. You can call in like overdrive mode and these little nanobots that do stuff, but I mean, they're not cool or interesting, and I forget to use them half the time, and there's no real benefit unless you're in the thick of it. But if you're in the thick of it, you're probably going to die quickly, and it's like, there's just nothing inspiring about the perks. But I think probably the biggest issue this game faces isn't necessarily that it's a bad game, because it's not a bad game. It's a little bit uninspiring at times, and it's very much a clone of what already exists on the market, which is its biggest issue, right? Everyone knows this is a Battlefield clone. There's no hiding it, and they've taken elements from Call of Duty and stuff as well, but ultimately, there is zero reason that you would play this over Battlefield. You know, the graphics aren't better, the gameplay isn't better, the flow of the game isn't better. It's not EA. That might be one of the only things it really has going for it. But other than that, everything about this game is a... what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost a love letter to Battlefield. It's what Battlefield could have been if they went a slightly different direction. But ultimately, I just don't see there's a market for it. It's a free-to-play game, which is nice, but Battlefield's pretty cheap right now, and there's still player bases on 3, 4, 5, 1, 2046. Like, I picked up 2046 the other day because it was on EA Play and played it, and I was actually a little bit surprised at how decent it's gotten, and they've worked on it. And with Battlefield 6, or whatever the new Battlefield's being called, coming out soon, this player base is just going to disappear because everyone's going to flock to the new Battlefield. There's a campaign mode coming out, which is probably the only thing it's going to have going for it, because I don't see it having a player base soon. I don't even know if it has dedicated servers. I don't see there's a want for this game. If they'd gone a different direction and they'd gone to, you know, modern, or maybe they'd gone back in time, maybe they'd gone to like the Vietnam or Korean wars, or they'd focused on a real world conflict. Maybe it's too early to make a game based on like Russia and Ukraine and stuff, but if they had gone that direction of realism, in massive air quotes, I think they might have more of an attraction than just what it is, which is like semi-modern, slightly futuristic warfare, because Battlefield already ticks that box and does everything better than Delta Force does. There isn't... Could be wrong. Could be looking back at Battlefield with rose-tinted goggles. But there is nothing about this game that is better than Battlefield. Other than the fact it's not developed by a company called EA. So on that note, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this game develops. I really do think it'll just have one of those player bases that will just gradually decline off until the next Battlefield comes out, and then everyone will just flock to that, because I just don't see anything inspiring enough about this game to warrant keeping it around for that long, you know. So I think it just boils down to the game doesn't know what it wants it to be. It's trying to be a Battlefield clone, but realistically it does nothing better than Battlefield or Overwatch or Call of Duty even to warrant the player base sticking around. That's the long and short of it. I know they're developing this kind of with a campaign in mind. They've got this Black Hawk Down mode that's going to come and all that kind of stuff, but why would you play it? Why would you play this multiplayer? There's nothing to keep you here other than maybe the maps, like I said earlier. It's just average in almost every way. The optimization is okay. The maps are okay. The gameplay is okay. And that's about the long and short of it. Don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm shitting on it a lot, but it's still a fun game. It's still, you know, if you're bored and you're feeling uninspired by, I don't know, Call of Duty, but you don't want to jump into Battlefield because you know the map's like the back of your hand and you want a bit of a challenge defending or something, then this is probably the game for you. But ultimately, I just don't see it sticking around for the long run. And here we are. So we're coming to the end of the game here. They've only got 5 respawn tokens left, so this is probably going to wrap up pretty quickly. I do like this gun though. The gunplay feels good. There's some pros to it. I feel like I've just been shitting on it the entire video, but it's not that bad. What do I do now? Okay, sorry, I got distracted.
Take the sector. Roger that. Artillery barrage incoming. The enemy has taken objective Charlie 2. Frontline in danger. Ready assault now.
Oh my goodness. Now we're coming to the end of this game, and it's just more action in these last minute and a half than I've had in the entire game, I feel like.
One objective left. You're almost there.
This is cool. Ah. Damn it. So close. The other thing I don't like is there's no frigging KD counter during the game. I can see I've had 20 deaths, or sorry, 20 kills, I've had 20 assists, 5 revives, and 3 captures. But just like Call of Duty, for some reason they're not putting a death counter in the game. It's like, why can't I know my death count? It annoys me it's not in COD, and it annoys me it's not in this. Why not even be in Battlefield now I think about it? Modern gaming. Anyway, there you have it. That is pretty much the long and short of my first few hours playing this game. And honestly, I don't see myself playing it a great deal in the future. But it's alright. It is what it is, and it knows what it is. But it also does know what it is. if that makes sense. It knows it's an FPS game, and it does that pretty well, but there's nothing inspiring about it and nothing unique about it. Is my too long don't watch. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been somewhat entertaining, and I'll see you next time.